Hello, good afternoon. Very warm welcome to today's webinar. My name's Jackie and today we're going to be looking at customer corrections. I'm joined today by Michael. Michael's in the background. He's waiting for any of your questions today. So if you do have any questions throughout today's session, please do make sure that you get them sent across to the team there. So just a bit of housekeeping first of all. So if you are new to these sessions, you may not be familiar with this, so please bear with us if you're a repeat attender. So first of all, you will be placed on mute. Okay, so you will see that your microphone is in red with a cross through it. That shouldn't affect your ability to hear us today. Okay, it just means that you can't speak to the team directly. If you do have any sound issues throughout the session, so if you do feel like your sound is dropping out, please do leave the session and rejoin, and then just check your speaker or headphone settings. If you want to submit a question across to myself or Michael, then we've got the questions panel, and you can open that up by using the icon that looks like a speech bubble with the question mark in the middle there. And there you can type your questions regarding today's session. We will prioritise questions on today's content over any others, but obviously if you do have any other questions that we can answer, we will try and answer those for you. And finally, there is a handout for today. It has just uploaded, so apologies if you logged on early to try and get a copy of that before the session. Unfortunately, there was a failure earlier on, but that is now available on the right-hand side. It looks like a document with a folded over corner, and you can download it from there. There will also be a recording available on our recordings website, so that will be in the follow-up email for you, a link to the page where you can find a recording of a previous session on customer corrections as well. So if you do want to catch up or you want to watch anything back again, that will be available shortly after today's session. Okay, so let's make a start because we normally have quite a lot to fit into this half an hour for you. So it's around half an hour for the content, and then we've got sort of 10-15 minutes at the end for any questions if there are any remaining there. Okay, so what we're going to look at first, I've just jumped ahead there, is first of all, we're just going to look at the corrections feature. Now, the key for today's session is about customer corrections, but most of what I'm going to show you today is also applicable to the suppliers module. But just to try and keep it simple, we've kept everything on the customer module just to try and keep that all very simple for you and easy to follow. So bear in mind that this also really does cover most of your supplier corrections as well. We're then going to talk about manual corrections, so how to manually correct a transaction that you can't use the corrections feature for. And then we're going to look at the write-off refund wizard. At the end, we're then going to finalise the session with any questions that you may have. Now, don't feel you need to wait till the end of the session, though. If you do have a question beforehand, please do just submit it as it comes to you. It might be something we can demonstrate during the session, and it saves us having a lot of questions all at the end, all at the same time there for you. Okay, so first of all, we're just going to talk about some basic corrections within the corrections feature. So I'm first of all just going to go through some of the options, and then we're going to do some demonstrations of these in action so you can actually see these working. So in the most recent versions, corrections is found within the transactions window. You may remember from older versions, it was also held in file maintenance and then corrections. It is all now just within the transactions window. So we have one window, which is your audit trail, but has the options, as you can see there, to view, edit, unallocate and delete at the top of the screen. So view is very simple, does what it says on the tin there. It allows you to view all of the details of that transaction, but it allows you to go a little bit deeper so you can see if there are any linked transactions, so any transactions that were posted at the same time. The edit function allows us to edit certain fields on the transaction. And then we have the unallocate option. Now, not everyone is maybe familiar with the unallocate feature. Wonderful feature, because prior to the unallocate feature being there, in order to disconnect two transactions which were married together, so for example, an invoice and a payment, you had to delete one of those transactions. Now with the unallocate button, it just severs the link between those two transactions, making life much easier. Nothing has to be re-entered, but you now have two unallocated transactions which can be allocated elsewhere. So I'll show an example of that in just a moment too. And then we have the delete option. So the delete option will allow us to delete the transaction. However, if it is VAT reconciled, so if the transaction has been included in a VAT reconciliation in the past, then what it will do is it will post a reversal of that transaction for you. So that should make your life a little bit easier, because then it is then picked up on your next VAT return automatically. Just before we show you some of those examples, I do just want to talk about critical and non-critical fields. So we have these two different differentiations of certain fields within a transaction, and depending on which field you're trying to amend, it can have a different impact on your data. So critical fields are ones where if you amend them, what it will do is it will cancel the transaction and post a brand new one for you. So these are really key items of the transaction that need to be recorded on your audit trail. So if you're going to change things like the amount of the transaction, the date of the transaction, the the tax code that's on there, if you change any of those, then that needs to be recorded on your audit trail. So rather than just deleting it and having no record of what the original transaction said, it will cancel it and post a new one for you. So although it's cancelling a transaction, you actually end up with an extra transaction as a result of correcting a critical field. The next one is non-critical fields. So you can amend these, and what will happen is the amendment will just take place. There'll be no additional transaction appearing as a result. So non-critical fields are the easy ones to change, and they include things like your reference, the details, the department. Okay, at the bottom there we've got a link to an Ask Sage article. This has more information on what's happened when you've got the option for deleted or cancel, and then see a transaction number in the details field, which I'm just going to demonstrate in just a few moments there for you. Okay, so we're going to go into a live demo so I can put some of that into action for you rather than just talking at you. I want to show you some of these examples there. So if you just bear with me, we'll just skip onto our system there. Bear with me. That's us in our software, and I'll just reshare the screen there for you. So as you can see here, I have got a list of transactions in the software which I've created earlier for you. We're just going to go through some of those examples that we showed earlier on just to really cement that for you. So first of all, we've got the option to view a transaction. So if I highlight this one, for example, here, and go into view, what you can see there is all of the details of that transaction. And you can go into view to view further information there as well, should you need to. And what you can see from here is on the sales invoice, I can also see the sales allocation to a sales receipt there. So I can see what transactions they're also linked to. So that's the view option. We then have the option to edit a transaction. Now, first of all, what I'm going to do is edit two transactions, slightly different ways to show you the impact of those. So the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to edit transaction 1. And this time we're going to be editing the department field on this transaction. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the department is a non-critical field. So I just want to show you what happens if I change the department on this transaction. So first of all, you can see there's no option for department here. So what I do need to do is click edit again. And within here, you can see the department on here. So I'm going to change that onto the default and OK. And then I need to close and save. It will ask me if I want to post the changes. So I need to say yes if I want that department to change. And as a result, nothing has changed on the screen other than the department. So I don't have anything in the details to indicate anything has changed, and I don't have any additional transactions as a result. So because that's a non-critical field, the amendment has just taken place and the department now indicates it is 0. We're going to show you a critical field now. So we're going to move on to transaction 2, and I'm going to actually amend the date on this one. So the date is a critical field. So I'm just going to go back into edit and then edit again. sorry, I've gone too far. Just pop this in here, and I'm just going to change it back to today's date. That was posted at the beginning of October in error, for example. And I'm just going to click on save. And again, it will ask me if I want to post the changes. And as you can see, as a result of that, the original transaction is there, but it has the new date. So it's now saying the 1st of September. If we look towards the bottom, we now have an additional transaction in red when we're not hovering over it. And it does say deleted C transaction 2. So this is the details of the original transaction that we corrected, and the corrected transaction is now showing here. So if you do have any that say deleted C transaction and then give you a transaction number, it's referring back to which transaction has been altered, and that's because we've amended a critical field. Now next, I'm just going to try deleting a transaction. So I mentioned earlier, you can delete transactions using the delete option. But if it's VAT reconciled, then we do need to consider the fact that that has been reported to HMRC. So this particular one here, if we have a quick look along here, you can see it has been reconciled for VAT. It's the only one there that has been. So because it's reconciled, when we go to delete, it will again be slightly different. So I'm just going to click on delete at the bottom here, and it automatically asks me if I want to reverse the transaction. So as a result of this, if we say yes, what we'll find again, we receive an additional transaction. The reference in the original transaction changes to cancel, and the new transaction here says cancel C transaction 3. So again, it refers back to the original transaction. And next time I come to do my VAT return, what will happen is this one here will be picked up as a previously unreconciled transaction that we would need to pull this through for that return. Next, I want to just show you the unallocate feature. So moving on to transaction 4 and 5. If I just hover over 4 for a moment, you can see at the top, the unallocate feature is available. Now, if I was to go to invoice 3, for example, the feature isn't available, and that's because that particular invoice hasn't been paid off, so it's not eligible to be unallocated. So it's only available on transactions that can be unallocated. So this invoice is allocated to a sales receipt, strangely enough, number 5. And what we want to do is, it could be that we've maybe applied the wrong payment to the wrong invoice. It could be an invoice and a credit note. And rather than remove the transaction, we just want to disconnect them so that they're both still live in the software, but they're not tied to one another. So I do have the option to unallocate, and it will just ask me to confirm I want to unallocate. And what happens then is my sales receipt has changed to a payment on account. You can see there it now says SA, although the details say sales receipt. And if I was to go back into the record for customer 3, which we'll do just to demonstrate, and went in to do a payment, for example, which will go into bank, and bank receipt, customer receipt. Pick up customer 3. What you can see there is both transactions are now waiting to be paid, so they're not allocated to one another there. Some great questions coming through there, so keep Michael busy. A quick one which I will just pick up there because we've just covered it is, if a VAT reconciled transaction is deleted, the new cancelled transaction is not, but the original remains reconciled. That's right. So your original still is reconciled, and you've declared that to HMRC. So what you then need to do is, on your next return, is make sure the correction is then also submitted to HMRC, and it will pull through normally as an earlier unreconciled transaction. So just keep an eye out for that. If you are doing any corrections, you need to also submit the corrections on your VAT return. Okay, so that was our unallocate option. So I'm just going to say no to that one. They're ready to reallocate to something else down the line. And the next one we're going to be looking at is transaction 6 here. So transaction 6 is really to give you a heads up there around if you're using the invoicing module. Okay, If you're using the invoicing module, so invoices and credits, any corrections we make on the transaction window doesn't feed back to this window. So I wanted to give the heads up on there. So the transactions that we've amended from 1 to 5 have only really impacted the nominal and customer supplier records. They haven't impacted anything in terms of my stock, or if I've been using invoices or orders, it hasn't impacted those either. So just wanted to show you an example here. I've got an invoice in my invoices and credits module. It's for customer 4. It's been posted to the ledgers. And as a result of posting to ledgers, in my transactions list, we've got SI number 6 in my list there for 150 plus 30 VAT. Now, if I was just to delete this, what would happen is it would allow me to delete it from the list, which I'll do right now. But it won't have any impact, if I look at my invoices and credits, on the invoice in the invoice list. So that invoice is still there. And also if there was any stock movements, which there is as a result of this, it also doesn't take into account that the stock movement has been made. So as a result of this invoice, stock was moved out of stock and sold to the customer. So correcting it on the transactions window hasn't undone that process. So what you might want to do as an alternative if you're using the invoices and credits module is if you need to make a correction is to use the option for credit within the invoices and credits module. So you do have an option to credit the invoice, and what that will do is reverse the invoice. It will present you with a new transaction, but it will also do a goods returned on your product as well. Now, we're not going to go into too much detail on that today because we will be covering things like that on our invoicing sessions next week. In particular, we're going to be doing one specifically on product invoicing. So please do check out that session next week if you want a bit more around invoicing and corrections there. Okay, so that just takes us through those basic corrections in the transactions window. So that's your error corrections. What I just wanted to show you now is some of the manual corrections that you have options for. So just bear with me 1 second, we'll put you back onto the PowerPoint just to show you some demonstrations. Now, to be honest, this isn't as common as it used to be. Our software has now developed to make life much easier for you. So it does take care of a lot of these for you. So previously, we'd have to do a lot of manual corrections for VAT reconciled transactions. Now, as I say, we've improved the software to take care of that for you. So manual corrections don't tend to be as common, but you might still find yourself in a situation where you need to do a manual correction. And for that, we're going to show you what transactions you need to post to reverse each transaction type. So because today we're talking about the customers, I'm going to start with customer module first of all. So if I did need to reverse an invoice, the reversing transaction that we'd be using would be a credit note. If I needed to reverse a credit note, I would do a sales invoice to reverse that. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them because this will be in the handout for you, but I want to show you the most common scenario there. And that's where we've got a fully paid invoice. So we've posted both a sales invoice and a sales receipt. In order to reverse that, we would need to post 2 transactions. So I'm going to show you that now. Bear in mind, just before I do show you that in the demonstration, I have also popped in the supplier reversals as well, just although today's a customer session, just so that you've got them all in a list of what type of transaction to post. Okay, so I'll just show you that in action. Bear with me, we're going to pop back onto our software. And there we are. Okay, so let's pop back into our transactions list. Now, again, I've prepared these earlier. So transactions 7 and 8 are an invoice which has been paid off in full with a sales receipt. Now, if I did need to do a credit note for this, then I would need to pop the credit note on first to cancel out the impact of the invoice. So that's for £6,000 plus VAT on the first. of the 9th, and it's customer 5. So we'd need to just remember all of those details. And this is why the software has been developed, to avoid this where required. Okay, so first of all, we'll pop into customers. We need to do a batch credit on customer 5. Leave it as today's date, but we need it to match all of the original invoice details if we're just trying to cancel it straight off, or if it's something that has been sent to the customer and something's been agreed at a later date, we need to use that particular date. But because I'm just trying to reverse the whole thing off, assuming that this has been an error on my part, I need it to match exactly what the original invoice said. So in that case, my nominal code was 4,900. Keep it as today's date, and the amount on there was 6,000 plus VAT. So I'm going to save that, and that cancels off the impact of the invoice. But as you can see there now, we've now got a negative balance of negative 7,200. So I do now, to bring this back to zero, need to post a transaction to bring this back to zero to cancel the impact of that credit note. So this is really, I'm going to post a customer refund at this point. So to do this, I've got the refund option at the top. Now, don't be alarmed if your icons look slightly different to mine. Mine are bunched up because I've got a lot of features activated on there at the moment. Yours might be a bigger icon, so don't be alarmed on there. So I'm just going to click on refund. It's the same button, I'm sure. If you click on yours, it might just be that it's in a different location or slightly bigger. And what I'm going to just do is start typing in the customer name, because I've got mine, all of my account references are based on the customer name. So I've just started typing it in there, and I'm just going to bring up customer 5. And as you can see there, I've got my credit note that I've just entered. And this is very similar to the sales receipt window. All we need to do here is pop into the refund column and press refund in full, because it's a full refund in this case. If it was a partial refund, you could type in the amount there and then save. And what that will do is post a sales payment transaction, as you can see there. And this reverses the impact of that sales receipt. So because I had a sales invoice and a sales receipt, I needed then 2 transactions to reverse it, which is a sales credit and then a sales payment transaction. Now, like I say, that's probably a rare occurrence that you will need to do that, but we do still want to show that because there might be occasions where you do need to do a manual reversal on there. So the final feature we're going to go through is that of the write-off refund wizard. So again, this has been designed to make life a little bit easier for you by popping this all into a wizard for you, so that you can do it all at the click of a couple of buttons rather than having to do manual reversals, etc. Just pop back onto the slideshow for 2 moments while we show you this, and then I'll do a couple of demonstrations. There's quite a few options within here, so I'm going to do some of the key ones that you might be interested in. Okay, so write-off and refund wizard. Okay, so this features within your customers module. The pros of this is it's automatic, so automatically recognizes dates, nominal codes, etc. for you. So all of those points where we could have gone slightly wrong with nominal codes and dates, it's all picked up automatically for you. So it makes it quick, makes it easier, and less likely to make mistakes as well. The cons are that it will only allow you to write off full value, so you can't do a partial refund using the write-off refund wizard. And also it can't be used for foreign transactions. So if you are using foreign trade and you find you need to do a refund, then you would need to use the manual process for that as well. Now, the write-off and refund wizard, as you can see there, sorry, I'll skip back one again. You can see it does have quite a few options in there. It's all 8 or 9 options that you can use within there. Now, the next slide, I'm not going to go through all of it for you because I just want to demonstrate some of the key ones. But this shows you, apologies, it's jumping back and forwards. This shows you what scenarios you would use each one for and what types of transactions it will post for you as well. So we're just going to go through a couple. We're going to do an invoice refund. We're going to show the payment on account refund, and we're also going to show you write off small overpayments. There is a really good article on this which details each and every one. So if you do want to find out a bit more information about some of the other ones, please do check out that article, a link for which will be in the slides today. So popping back onto our data for one final time. Just waiting for that to load up for you so you can see the software there. Okay, I think that should be loaded up. It's not loading up yet on my end, so please do let me know if the screen hasn't changed onto our Sage 50 software. Do let me know if you can't see that. We might just have to reset the screen. But you should be viewing my software again, and we're going to go through the write-off refund wizard. So I'm just going to pop back into my customer module. And as you can see there, just under my refunds, I do have the write-off option there. So you can see I've got all of the different options. So the first one I want to demonstrate for you there is the customer invoice refund option. So automatically by selecting customer invoice refund, it knows what type of transaction it's going to post. All I need to do is select which customer I'm trying to refund. So in this case, I'm going to select customer 6 and OK. And then I just need to select next. And what it will do then is it will show me any of the invoices that are available that I can do a refund for. So I only have one on the list, but obviously you may have multiple options in here which you can select from. So I'm going to select the one that I've got there, and I just need to pick which bank account that the refund is going from. So I'm going to select my main bank account 1200 and then click on next. If I want to pop an additional reference, I can do. And again, if I do need to change the date because I'm not refunding it as of today, might be a future dated one, I can also do that as well. And then we have the option to post using this date because the payment date that we've selected is earlier than the transaction being paid. So we can actually then go back to return to payment or allocation date if I want to. But I'm just going to select post using this date for the sake of today's. Click on post. If we pop back into our transactions, you can then see that as a result, we've got the sales payment has been posted to this transaction. That's a refund there. So as a result of us doing the wizard, it's posted 2 transactions, credit note and the payment, which we showed you how to do manually just earlier there. Next one, I just wanted to show you, so bear with me one second again, I'm just going to pause the screen there. Bring that back on. Is we're going to show you how to write off a payment on account. So where a customer sent over a deposit and they've maybe asked for the deposit to be refunded, or they've overpaid and you want to refund, then we do have the option to do the refund of a payment on account. So again, it's just using the wizard again. You can go back off into write-offs. And this time we're going to select the payment on account refund. So again, automatically it knows what transaction it needs to post or what set of transactions. I'm going to select my customer 7 this time. And what it should be doing is looking for any outstanding payments on account. And as you can see there, it has found that we've got a payment on account from the 1st of September. So again, which bank account do I want to use? And then next. So again, as a result, it's posting the transaction for me. I don't need to worry about dates, nominal codes, etc. Everything is taken care of during the wizard. So again, you can see as a result there, transaction 21 has been posted, just the refund because it was an overpayment. There wasn't any original invoice. The last one I'm going to show you is how to write off overpayments. And I don't know if that might help with one of the questions that's come through there. Will the system collate a number of outstanding credits to allow me to pay one sum? I'll come back to that one in a moment for you. Michael's already on to that one, no problem. So just want to show you this one because it can actually pick up multiple transactions as well. So I'm going to pop back into customers. So this is particularly useful if you're maybe trying to do some tidying up of your data. So if you've got lots of small overpayments sitting on customer records and you can't clear those records as a result of all these transactions outstanding, you might want to do a bit of tidying up. So it's quite often you might have 2p here, 3p here. It might be a couple of pounds that you've got on there, and you're not going to chase them or process them. It might be customers you no longer deal with. You just want to write them off in your software. So to do this again, we're just going to go into write-offs and we're going to select the bottom option here, and you can pick which value up to that you're clearing. So I'm going to select £5 today, but yours might be even lower. It might be £1. It might just be to clear off those really tiny balances. And as you can see there, what it's done is it's scanned my customers and it's found a few transactions which are below £5. Now I can select them all. So I can select swap. So that's what swap and clear are here. I could, if I just wanted, say I had a list of quite a few, I could select which ones I wanted. I can also swap if I wanted to as well. So swap and clear does have its benefits, but I'm just going to swap and highlight them all. And then again, click next, and it's going to post the relevant transaction for me. So because these are small overpayments, it'll combine them all together for me, and it should be posting me an invoice there. As you can see, again, I'm getting this message about the date. So it's just recognizing that I'm trying to put the payment through at an earlier date than the transaction that I'm originally popped on. So don't worry about that. You probably not get that. That's probably because I've popped a couple of dates into the future when setting the data today. So I'm just going to select post using this date. And I just want to show you this transaction now. So back to our transactions window. As you can see here, we've got 3 invoices for each of those invoices that it has wiped off for us. Key thing to note here is because we're writing a transaction off, it's used nominal code 8100, and that by default is your bad debt write-off nominal code. Okay, we use that one. It is set up by default, but you can change it if you wish to, and that is set up in your control accounts. What that does then is it will show on your profit and loss as either a profit or a loss to the business, depending on whether or not it's been an overpayment that you've been writing off or if it's been an invoice that you've been writing off. So that is your bad debt write-off nominal code 8100. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of your customer corrections. Bear in mind again, all of that that we showed you earlier is applicable in your customers, your suppliers module. We'll pop back onto the presentation now just to go through a quick summary for you. Bear with me, we'll just pop up the PowerPoint again. There we go. Okay, so just to summarize, transactions, normally you will correct them in the transactions window, but just bear in mind that if you do correct them in the transactions window, it doesn't then have any impact on any of your other modules, such as your invoicing, your sales orders, or your products. There will also need to be corrections made there. There are features to make life a bit easier. So if you're in the invoicing module, you can use things like the credit invoice option to reverse the entire impact of the invoice. If the transaction can't be deleted, for example, it has been VAT reconciled, then it will be reversed. And the corrections module now takes care of that for you rather than making you have to do a manual correction. The unallocate option severs the link between 2 transactions for you. So they're no longer connected together and can be allocated elsewhere. The write-off and refund wizard can be used for certain refunds, but also for writing off transactions as well when they meet certain criteria. And it can be quite useful if you're trying to do a bit of a tidy up on your data. And also remember, most of the features that we've shown you today are the same in your suppliers module as well. So we do have some useful links for today. So again, these are all in the handout for you. Lots of information on how to use the wizard, how to manually write them off, and also how to correct an audit trail transaction as well. Just before we go, we do have a little bit more information around Sage membership. So you may hear us starting to talk about memberships and Sage members. We do offer Sage membership to all our customers, and this is where you can access lots of information and lots of support online. Part of that is the Sage Member Masterclass, but there's also free learning through Sage University and also our Sage community, which is held on Sage City. Now, we're today just going to give you a little bit more information around the masterclasses. At the moment, we're currently in season 1, but we do have season 2 coming soon. So season 1 is all around getting the best onboarding experience for new staff, nurturing talent within your business, and also then retaining that talent as well. So there's lots of guides online and lots of videos for you to watch from different businesses around the world talking about what they've done with successful recruitment and keeping their staff happy. So please do check that out. The link's on the screen there. If you do want to find out more about your membership, then we are doing a session on the 15th at 11 a.m. If you want to join us, there will be a link for the sign up in the follow-up email for you today. Finally, next week we are back. We're going to be doing some invoicing. So next week we're going to be looking at service invoicing on Tuesday. And next Thursday we will be looking at product invoice. But in the middle, we're going to be doing some chase debt with Michael on Wednesday there. So please do join us for those 3 sessions next week. Again, the links to sign up for future webinars will all be in the follow-up email today there. Okay, so just before we go, I'm just going to pop back onto the software. Just want to show you the Help Center just in case you do want to follow up on any of the steps we've talked through today. So bear with me one more moment. Michael's just on top, almost on top of all the questions there for you. So if you do have any, please do send them across. But within your software, if you go into Help and into Help Center, what you will be able to get onto is the Help Center here. And you can type absolutely anything into this box and it will bring up all the articles relating to that topic. So if I do want to have a look at write-off, pop in a search, and then we've got lots of articles on there. If I want to have a look at what's coming up webinar-wise, then I just type in the word webinars. And again, that will bring up the current webinars, webinar recordings that we've got available, which is where you can find a previous recording of today's session. And you can sign up for as many as you like, and they are all free of charge as well. So that brings us to the end of the content for today. So we are going to pop on mute for a few moments while we just check through those questions for you. If you are leaving this session though, thank you very much for joining us. However, we will be back to say goodbye before we end the session officially. So keep your questions coming, keep us busy, and we can hang on till around 1:45 today to answer your questions there. In the meantime, if you are leaving, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope that we will see you next week on one of our sessions there. Apologies there, I had a little issue with the microphone popping itself back onto mute. I was talking away. I just wanted to reiterate a couple of questions there. First of all, if you're using the write-off option, the minute you use write-off, it will always use 8100, which is by default. So we'll always use that nominal code to post the transaction because you're writing off the transaction or that particular account. The other one was just around someone who's been using corrections within the bank module. So I did demonstrate this with my microphone, I don't think was working, so apologies for that. And yes, you can do corrections within here as well. So if I open up my bank account and go into activity, you can see there is still the option to edit and delete, and that will do exactly the same as it would if you accessed it from transactions. So don't feel you've got to change the way you're processing. We've shown it all from the transactions window, but don't feel you need to change if you've been using it from here. It's exactly the same impact on your data. Okay, so I think all questions are answered there. I don't think there's any of us coming through there at the moment. So again, thank you very much everyone for joining us. I hope that you will join us again next week. So like I said, we've got 3 webinars next week, all at 2 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We'd be more than happy to see you there again. And we're going to go into more of the invoicing side of things. So if you do have any questions on invoicing, those are the perfect sessions for you to turn up to, and we'll certainly show you a little bit on corrections in invoicing as well. So thank you very much everyone, take care, and like I say, hope to see you next week.